Winter, 1942, arrived like a silent executioner. Cold swept across Stalingrad, burying the ruins under a blanket of ice and ash. For soldiers and civilians trapped inside the broken city, survival became a battle of its own. The wind cut like knives through torn uniforms. Frost clung to eyelashes and rifles alike. Every breath felt like inhaling shards of glass. Food had become a memory. Water froze before it could be lifted to a soldier's lips. Men tore pages from books just to light a fire that lasted only seconds. Yet the fighting did not stop. In the ruins of shattered factories and apartment blocks, men crawled through holes blasted into walls, turning every room, every stairwell, every basement into a battleground. The city had no front line anymore. Battle came from every direction. From above, as buildings collapsed, from shadows, where snipers waited in silence, from beneath, as soldiers crept through tunnels and darkness deeper than night. Weeks turned into months, and those months became a blur of smoke, hunger, and terror. Soviet soldiers huddled together in burned-out rooms, sharing a single crust of frozen bread and whispering stories of home to keep their spirits alive. German soldiers shivered in open trenches, their greatcoats stiff with frost, their hands numb, their hope fading with each sunless day. A city once filled with factories and life had become a maze of ice and death. Tanks lay frozen in place like metal skeletons. Trucks were abandoned, half buried beneath deep snow. The screams of the wounded echoed through long nights until even the echoes grew tired. Inside a ruined warehouse, a Soviet medic stitched wounds by candlelight, his hands trembling from cold and exhaustion. Every stitch was a fragile act of hope. Every life saved felt like a victory greater than any captured street. Across the lines, German soldiers burned furniture and doors just to stay alive a little longer, but the flames offered little warmth and no comfort. As the winter deepened, disease spread faster than any shell or rifle. Men collapsed from hunger long before battle reached them. The dead were covered with snow where they fell, their shapes slowly disappearing beneath the endless white. Through it all, the Volga River remained a frozen lifeline. Across its icy surface, Soviet reinforcements crawled under the cover of night, dragging ammunition, food, and sometimes the wounded back across the ice. The river became both a pathway and a grave. Still, the defenders held, against exhaustion, against cold, against despair itself. And then came the snipers. Among them, one name whispered through the ruins: Vasily Zaitsev. His rifle spoke with deadly precision, each shot echoing through the ruined streets like a cold promise of resistance. He did not fight for glory. He fought to protect the living, to honor the dead, and to remind the invaders that Stalingrad still had teeth German snipers answered, turning the shattered buildings into a deadly game of shadows. Hours passed in silence as they watched each other through broken windows. One breath, one heartbeat at a time, only one would survive these duels. But even victory tasted like ash. Elsewhere across the ruins, men fought at distances so close that the cold air carried the sound of their breathing. Grenades echoed through empty hallways. Boots scraped across debris-covered floors. Voices whispered in darkness as soldiers tried to distinguish friend from foe in a city where every corner hid danger. Nights stretched endlessly, broken only by distant explosions and the soft crunch of snow beneath weary boots. A soldier might enter a building with 20 comrades and leave with only 2. Such was life inside Stalingrad's frozen maze. By midwinter, both armies were barely human. Gaunt faces, hollow eyes, trembling hands, weak from hunger and numb from cold. And yet, in the darkest corners of the city, small moments of humanity flickered. A soldier sharing the last crumb of bread. Another placing his coat over a wounded comrade. A quiet lull in the fighting, allowing men to hear the wind instead of gunfire. These moments did not win battles, but they kept hope alive. The city itself seemed to breathe. a wounded animal refusing to die. German officers wrote in journals about the unbearable cold, the relentless Soviet attacks, the dwindling supplies. Some wrote letters home they would never send. Soviet soldiers, equally exhausted, held positions simply because there was nowhere left to fall back to. They fought with courage, born from desperation, and the knowledge that behind them lay the families they fought to protect. By January, the German Sixth Army was trapped, encircled in a pocket of ruins, snow, and shattered hope. Reinforcements would not come. Supplies would not arrive. Rescue was impossible. The frozen streets became prisons, the ruins became tombs, and the sky above, once filled with the roar of aircraft, became empty. Inside the pocket, officers issued orders that no longer mattered. Their men were dying faster from cold and hunger than from Soviet gunfire. A loaf of bread was worth more than ammunition. A cup of hot water felt like a miracle. And still, Stalingrad's defenders pushed forward with relentless determination. Every street became a symbol. Every block a battlefield. Every ruined house a fortress. The Soviet forces tightened the noose with methodical, crushing precision. Yet even as the pocket shrank, German soldiers clung to a final hope, the belief that their high command would save them. But salvation never came. Days slipped by in bitter cold. Nights felt endless. Men collapsed where they stood, their bodies claimed by winter. The ring grew smaller. The end drew closer. In the final days, the once proud German Sixth Army was reduced to scattered groups huddled inside basements and cellars, waiting for the inevitable. For 200 days and nights, Stalingrad had endured hell. But now the tide had turned. The defenders had survived the worst the world could offer, and the invaders, once confident in their victory, now faced the truth that history would never forget. Stalingrad had not fallen. The city had endured. The people had endured. And through endurance, they had changed the course of the entire war.